Welcome to another Lumion tutorial. This is Chris Welton from CweltonDesign. Lumion has celebrated their 10th update with an incredible new release. Lumion 10 has released a brand new trailer, which looks incredible. I highly recommend you take a look at that, showcasing a lot of the new features and effects first before watching this. But in this tutorial, my goal is to do a tour of all of these new features that are coming out for Lumion 10 from a user standpoint, seeing it in action. And very briefly, in the future, I'll be releasing some separate in-depth tutorials covering each of these major new features as well. But with that, this is going to be a long video. So here are some timestamps to be able to let you jump ahead to any specific feature you're looking forward to seeing. And with that, let's go ahead and get started. Okay, so jumping right into Lumion 10, we have here a new welcome screen. It's pretty familiar, not too different, but you might have noticed that instead of having tabs here for examples, new and load projects, we have these boxes in here, and there's a little bit more to this as well. So now when we go to click on start a new project, we do have a couple new templates. We have plain scene, mountain range, and white, which is returned from before. We also have this suburban environment, which is pretty awesome. Just be able to stick your home project, residential project right into there. And we have a forest and tropical as well. And another quick little note is we have a select model here. That'll let us quickly select the model that we want to jump into Lumion with and open it right with our scene. So that's great. I've used it. It's a great little quick start to getting into your project, all loading all at once. And as we take a look at examples, we have a lot of returning examples, but we do get this new one. It's actually just like that suburban project, but filled with effects and this house to start with. So I'm actually going to be working with that scene. Just so we're able to work on the same exact project. Whenever you guys download Lumion 10, you will be able to jump in and access all the things that I'm playing with. And I'm not just recycling Farnsworth or Villa Cabrera again, as I've done many times in previous tutorials. As I go deeper into individual tutorials, I will be utilizing extra projects. And for this tour, we're just going to keep it simple with this new added example scene. Now, along with example scenes, we get some great examples of how to utilize the new effects that come out in Lumion 10 or any effects that we've had before and kind of see how they're using it. It's a great example to show the proper way of using Lumion, and that's how I learned when I first started. So I'm glad they are trying to add some more scenes and some more effects. Okay, so we just have our new example scene here open to work with. And I'm going to start off still brushing up on the new user interface and what's changed. And we will get to each feature individually and very briefly. Soon I will be releasing some in-depth tutorials that'll really dig into each one of these major effects. So this is mainly just to let you guys know where things are in relation after watching the Lumion 10 release video. I'm just letting you know where you'll be able to find these and how they kind of are used in the Lumion engine. And when you want to learn more about the details, take a look at my detailed tutorials on each one of these that are going to be releasing soon. So we're going to really quickly on the theme of user interface. You might have noticed that the layers have changed a little bit, just the way they kind of look. They still function the same way, really not too much has changed here, and as you can see, this scene is well organized through layers. It's a very flexible scene we'll see utilizing a lot of Lumion 10's new features. So just a quick little thing here, we have a way of hiding these layers. We add them the same way. You double click to rename them, But really a big change that's happened as well is when we click on objects, we also have the ability to select or assign layers by selecting on objects. Say if we want to select this rock right here, it's set to the background tree layer, and we can go ahead and move that to lake, and it's hidden. And obviously we turn that back on, it's back. Lake, I know, weird, there's a lake, you'll see. It's just kind of a fun few settings that they have set up in here. And the other thing is when we go to click on this as well, on this layer here, you can select all that are in that layer. Not all the rocks, just every object that's in that layer. So excellent. And again, I want to note that this reminds me of SketchUp. I love that way. Just be able to quickly select on something, the context menu, and assign to layer. So great addition, really happy for that. Everything else is pretty much the same as we've worked through there. And as we move down to here, what I'm going to highlight is that we've reorganized a lot of these icons here just a little bit again. So now we have the new fine detail nature category, which I'll dig into in a little bit. And we've separated utilities from lights. If you remember before, these utilities included objects like the cut plane, grid, the new landscape cutter, which is a new feature we'll cover in a second, and reflection control text. All these little things used to be in the light tab at the end here. It was kind of a weird spot, but Lumion had an even amount of icons before, and that's just where it fit. So as you can see, they've done 3 small icons, which are probably the 3 least used, although the utilities are used a decent amount. But sound effects are awesome. I haven't really used them, and the special effects are pretty cool as well, but again, probably less used, so they've kept them really small here. Made room for the new fine detail nature, and pretty much everything else is kind of the same here. If it hasn't just been slightly moved around, you'll be able to figure it out. As I move on to the weather tab here, one of the new features we have is be able to view real skies in editor mode, which is a nice little treat. I use real skies almost every time now, so it's nice to be able to at least get a better preview of lighting as I'm working around with materials or any sort of lighting that we're working with. Obviously we can't change the height, but we can rotate it around just like this, just like we can in the effects, and everything's set here, including even the new nights. So nice nifty little feature they've added in there. Not too much here in landscape to really cover besides OpenStreetMap, which we'll get to, and materials has changed a bit too, so maybe we'll jump right into materials as we're working here. So here is the new material interface. All down here is the same, but we have these awesome buttons right here, which used to be little tabs that popped up. It was kind of, I mean, it worked. They've been trying to organize it and keep it simple. I love that they've just turned them into small buttons here, because I do copy paste quite a lot. And we have load and save to custom materials. So we'll touch back in materials in a moment, but I'm going to go into the photo video mode to cover some of the new user interface changes here as well. So you can see they've given us some really cool scenes here with some really good looking effects. And there's our real-time preview, which another great effect. But what I'm going to cover right now is how they've reorganized the effects. So it might throw a lot of people off. Now we've gone like a vertical list as opposed to tabs along the top. A lot of the major ones that use a lot are actually in advanced. Hyperlight, skylight, reflection, shadow, enhancer is in here. All of the artistic effects including AI styles, the new one, and all these other ones are set in here. Not too much has changed in here. Animation ones, we have our new photo matching, which is found right here in the camera. Objects, we're going to be organizing layers. They have the water in here, and skies and with the new Aurora Borealis effect, weather, sun. So there's some more room now. We keep adding effects that we have some more real estate to add more because it was getting cramped as it was. It might take you guys a moment to reorganize where everything is. It didn't take me too long to figure it out. But another little thing I'll show here is it says show all. Here's all of the effects. If you turn that off, what this is supposed to be doing is showing your most used effects. Kind of like it's almost like, going into the internet and your browser kind of knows where you're looking. That's what they're kind of aiming for here. The ones that you're always going to be reusing can be showing up right here. You can turn it on and off. I have yet to see exactly how that works for me so far. I've just kept them all on. So that's about the only real big changes of the user interface I could think of right now. And it's going to lead right into the next topic that we're going to cover. Okay, and so that moves us along to my favorite of the new features, which is real-time view, live view of effects, specifically the skylight and hyperlight effect. These two were previously not able to be rendered in the viewport here. You had to hit the render button to really see their results. From what I understand, it was very technical. It was very tricky for them to figure that out and do it accurately and do it not, without destroying performance. And they've waited to get it just right and released it in 10, and it works incredibly. I've tested this out on very large scenes, and it slows down a little bit, but it's actually still pretty nimble. It's definitely something you don't have to worry too much about. And we can talk about how Lumion is doing this, or how it's running. Right now it says the preview window will automatically update. So if we were to move this around and then stop, give it a second, and it'll just start to do this update. It does 16 passes and it's done. This is incredibly accurate too. I've tested this out off of many different renderings, and it's amazing how close they got. So that's huge. But we're going to talk about how you could turn this on and off. If in fact it is slowing down your heavy model and it's really annoying, you can disable it with F6, or right here, disable automatic high quality preview. And now when you go around, it will not automatically update. You can move around, you can dial in settings and not have to worry about it lagging out to do it, if that's what you're looking for. But you could always just click in to update. It just won't do it automatically. So it's really awesome they've added this ability. I hit F6 and it'll automatically update. F6 again, click inside to update. So let's take a look at how we can really see and take advantage of this. So let's create a new shot right here. I'm just going to add skylight. Hyperlight is a big thing too. Let's hide skylight really quick, turn hyperlight up. You can see it does a little bit. It's not a lot. Some scenes are more, especially with lights. It was always something you can kind of picture in your mind, kind of. You can assume what hyperlight's going to do. Skylight was trickier to see, especially with these two sliders here. Let's switch this back to auto update. So we turn the brightness up, and our scene looks quite a bit different. And the coloring is skewed a little bit more blue. And if we bump that saturation too high, it completely changes the lighting in here, which was tricky to work with before. So I'm really, really enjoying the fact that we can see this in here. Before, I always had to say, render out a shot. Make sure you test out your lighting, or render out keyframes to make sure everything is going to be colored the way you expect, because skylight makes a huge difference. It's incredible, but it was frustrating. Sometimes I didn't have time to just sit there and probe things with skylight to see how I like it. But it's mainly affecting these two sliders here. This render quality honestly is not going to be reflected so much in here for real time, because these take even more passes. But it'll get you pretty close. It's just a minor difference really between here and here. I mean, it's big in quality, but when it comes down to it, the preview will get you is where you need to be, and just assume it'll be a little cleaner. On these two toggles, from what I understand, planar does. We would have to set up some planar reflections in a pool or something and you would see it. Projected doesn't seem to. I just wouldn't worry too much about those, but know that they are being, which ones are being real-time previewed in here. And there's a couple different shots here. This looks way different before and after. All those areas in deep shadow become much more well lit. And this is what you're used to working in. So incredible updates. It definitely adds a ton of value, saves a lot of time. So that is the new live preview in Lumion 10. Okay, so while we're right here inside of photo mode with effects, we might as well jump to check out the new real skies for night. Now, this is an incredible new feature. It really adds some different depth. I would say Lumion's default night sun setting was okay. The stars were kind of weird. Sometimes they were at different colors. I had a couple odd issues happen. This really adds some great dynamic realistic lighting for night. It works very simply. It's a plug and play option like real skies, which makes them amazing. We did not get any new real skies in any of these categories, but we got a night category now, which is always something I thought like, oh, we get dark evenings, but we didn't have night. Now we do. So they gave us 5 new ones. Each one of them is really cool. They bring some great visual boost to that kind of night scene. I don't know how many places you can really see the Milky Way this clearly, but I mean, that's awesome. Really can make your scene stand out. Again, you got the sliders here, trying to balance that out, and having this real-time preview just makes this work. It would be actually pretty frustrating without the real-time preview trying to work with this, but pretty straightforward. Those are the 5 ones I recommend trying your night shots out with each one of them to see which one you like. Don't just rely on this preview. Try rendering some out to really see. Another little detail: the stars you're seeing in here look a little blurry when you're in the preview here, but when you render them out, they're really clear. I think it's just an optimization thing to make things run quicker. And yeah, so that is Real Skies Night. So after Real Skies Nights, we can take a look. Adding on to that, we can take a look at this fun new effect they've added, which is the sky Aurora Borealis effect. This is a fun little effect. It adds a great, real visual stimuli that kind of makes your image pop at night. Not too many projects are actually kind of in the Arctic Circle or the extremities of the Earth that get to see this. But I'm welcome to little added bonuses here. It's pretty straightforward how it works. You get the color shifting here going on, the speed if you have this in animation. You can see it kind of moving here, getting it to the right frame in this still, scaling up and down, where it's going, the color shift. It's fun. It's pretty straightforward. I'm welcome to little style options like that. I'm sure I'll try utilizing this when I can, but it's a beautiful new effect. Very straightforward. If you happen to have any projects up north or you're just having fun, it's a great fun little thing that really pops some colors. You'll see it in the reflections. It's a beautiful effect, and it works really well with the new night skies. Okay, so the next feature I want to take a look at is the AI transfer effect. Now this one is definitely pretty interesting. I'm going to start a new one right here. And it is found in the second artistic tab right here, AI Artist Styles. So AI stands for Artificial Intelligence. they're utilizing these things in all sorts of tech. Think self-driving cars and machine learning. There's algorithms for like Google, how it knows what you're gonna look for. It's an excellent basis to start doing some really interesting things. I feel like it's gonna be something really big in our industry soon in our software. It's already coming in to the software. Anyways, I'm glad Lumion's dabbling in it, even though this effect is kind of interesting. Some of these I found pretty cool. Some of them are odd. I guess it'll depend on your project, because each project's a little bit different, and what it's going to do is analyze it and try to mix it with styles of famous artists. It's something they've wanted to do for a while, and it's come out pretty cool. So we got Picasso here, El Greco, Monet. I don't know too many of these other ones, to be honest, but let's try one out right here. Monet has been a pretty decent one for me. So it says right here is it's going to render it out regular and then the style. No preview here. I wouldn't expect anything to be coming anytime soon. It's actually going to render it in a really different way as well. So we might as well just do a quick test here. So this is the regular one. It's going to give this little animation. It's not actually, don't think it's your project. It's just like a screensaver basically. And in fact, this loading bar is not even super accurate. It's going to take some time. I haven't tried it at super high resolutions yet, but there you go. Pretty cool. But I do feel like the industry has been moving a lot towards wanting to do more stylistic renderings, especially early in design, because they don't want to commit. Architects don't want to commit to certain materials, and they don't want them rendered in super accuracy, super realism when they're still deciding what to use and don't want to sell it to the client. I've often gotten ones where, they want it as stylized as possible to hide detail. I'm all for different options. Different options to play with. Experiment with these guys. Try them out. I have had a couple that I thought were pretty cool. In general, I've had some interesting effects. This El Greco one is kind of fun. I'll do a quick one right here. Again, it's just the same screensaver. And prepare yourselves. Oh, this one's take a little bit longer. Yeah. Yeah. I see the project there now. It's almost like I find my project in the painting. You know what I kind of wonder? I actually kind of wonder if you did it twice, or if I moved it a slight amount, if it would look completely different. I actually haven't tested it out yet. We'll have some more fun with this. You know what? Why not? Try it out. It's pretty cool. I mean, I've had some good results, and it's, who knows, maybe something will pop out that's amazing. So that's the AI effect. It's definitely a different step. Again, anything Lumion is dabbling with in AI is kind of a good thing. They're doing it for this artist transfer, but maybe they'll do it with some sort of lighting thing that's just amazing. This is just getting their foot in the door. Another little detail too, this actually uses a lot of CPU power. It's not like, a ton. It's not like you're doing animations with it or anything, but it's just a little different. Everything else in Lumion is GPU based. They notified me that this one actually uses CPU, so just another little detail on that as well. Okay, so the last new effect that we're going to cover really quickly is also one of the best ones in Lumion 10's released. And it's this photo matching here, which is found under the camera tab. First one. Photo matching, and we get this edit button. That's how we're going to dive into this. Okay, so the purpose of this effect is to help match the perspective of your building onto a perspective from a photo. So this is an example photo that came with, I don't know if it's just this project or with every time you utilize this. Oh, look at that. There's a link to tutorials as well. But what we're seeing right here is having the perspective aligned onto this building right here. Looks like we want to replace that building, or we're just using it as a reference. So we could, by lining up the blue lines along here and the red lines going these horizontal lines here, that's how we match our perspective. So this is our building right here. Where this point is, we can edit and place reference point. It's kind of in the middle of the building. I'm gonna go ahead and stick that right to the corner of the building right there. All right, so we're starting to see the building. Looks like the layers aren't turning off like I've specifically asked them to. Oh wait, I think I know what's going on. Let's, in this mode, let's turn everything else off. Okay, I think that'll work. We'll jump back into here. Yes, so it's what it's showcasing is the layers that are in build mode right now. Maybe that's something they can massage later. So I've placed it right here. Oh, it's getting tricky. Be careful grabbing the wrong one. So I'm gonna stick this here, and obviously the scale's too big. We'll use this slider here to shrink it down. And we could basically put it where we want. I wouldn't trust putting it out there, but we're just going to stick it right here for now. I think its scale needs to be a little bit bigger. Now, getting the scale right is going to be tricky. Definitely worth some time. We have some helper object things here to help us understand where the planes are, and a transparency of our building to help us align. And I'm not sure exactly why you'd want to darken it, but we have that there as well. So we hit this green check mark. Now we're seeing our building on the perspective. Is it perfect? No. There's definitely some massaging to get, but it's kind of cool just be able to plop it on there. And that's using the default image that they provided. Really quick, I'm going to go through the workflow of utilizing a shot, an image that I took myself with my own drone, which should be a really easy one. So I'm going to go ahead and turn the transparency all the way down. I don't want the buildings to distract me. So you see this lot right here. We already got this nice rectangle set up. We're going to utilize that to help align our model. So we got our Z1 here, Z2 aligned here. And the longer you go, the better. The longer lines to set up, the better. And if any of you guys have used the SketchUp photo matching, it's very similar. There's like Max has one as well. That's really like it's just like that. Don't let any of this stuff really intimidate you. It's pretty straightforward. Let's make sure the reference point is still set in the same spot. Transparency on. So definitely need to scale it down a little bit. Again, getting that just right. It's gonna be a little arbitrary, but we're just gonna say right there and hit the green check, and there we are. There's our building on there. I used to do this manually using some really tricky methods, and it didn't work out in the end anyways. This is an incredible new ability, and it opens the doors to a lot of possibilities, and I look forward to diving into the deep dive for this effect. So look forward to that. There's some really cool things we're gonna play with in here. Another thing I want to show off is when you hit the render button on this, it actually renders out 3 images. The first image is exactly what the viewport sees, with our effects on top of our picture. Then we saw that black and white one. That was a mask for use in post-production to help cut our building out. And then we have our building just on top of Lumion terrain, so we get some shadows here as well. So here they are again. So something we'll explore later is how you can utilize this in Photoshop to mask out your building, and utilize even these shadows to drop onto the ground here and help it look more convincing on there. They've given us some really great tools. Even be able to mask the building out is actually, it's big. Not even just for perspective matching, in a lot of possibilities in the future as well. So we'll dig into that later. That is the photo matching effects. Awesome new addition. Definitely something that was very much requested. Okay, so here in video mode, movie mode here, we also have another great new feature, a minor one that makes a big difference, especially for me. Now, when we go to add our keyframes to scenes here, add keyframe 1, and say we want to move to here, keyframe 2. So now we can finally enter the clip length manually instead of having to tap this many times. That's a little thing, and the big thing here is being able to switch from ease out smooth to linear. And if you're not familiar what that means, I'm sure you've seen before when Lumion starts to go, the camera has some acceleration. It starts slow and then it gets to speed. And it stays at constant speed and it slows to an end. That's pretty nice, but I happen to like really smooth B-roll where it just starts at it just remains a constant acceleration. So right at the get-go, it just moves at the same speed. So you change that by going here. You could even have a mix and match if you wanted to. Whatever works best for you. I feel like this opens a lot more possibilities of matching camera angles and camera paths with certain things, maybe even drones or walking with a camera, because then you can really time things correctly. It was really hard to do with Lumion's acceleration. So now we set that linear, we get this nice smooth pan across. So it's an exciting little feature. Minor, makes a big difference for me. If it doesn't to you, that's fine. I love it. So linear acceleration in the camera and the ability to input length in here. You know, I accelerate the little things too. It's an excellent new addition to give us more power to get and produce the videos and cinema that we want. Okay, so we're gonna leave edit mode and get back into build mode here. So we're going to talk about fine detailed nature trees, which is definitely one of the bigger highlights of Lumion 10 as well. So Lumion has had really great trees ever since it released, and they've gotten only better since. They were made in speed tree, they were meant to be really attractive looking, they render well, and they run quickly in a real-time engine, which is crucial. They look really good at a long distance because they render nice and soft with their leaves and the little detail they have in there, and they look really good right next to your building, kind of the middle ground. One of the weaknesses though is as good as they are, they really shouldn't be too close to the camera. They're not terrible. I'm just saying that they're not that high a quality. A lot of times you'll see other render engines or other render workflows, well, they'll have proxies with really high detail trees that they'll have every leaf modeled, and they'll put it right next to the camera because that's what it's meant for. That's kind of the idea around these fine detail trees. So you can see they have their whole new category, and they operate a little bit differently. So we have 2 sections up here and 2 tabs of trees. And let's go ahead and just pull a couple out, and I'll try to explain the best I can what makes them epic and really high quality add. So there's just a couple samples right here. So I think most people can spot out right away that there's a little more detail into them, but I'm going to talk about some of this detail. This bark here has displacement mapping on it, which helps it really add some more realism and detail to that bark. Another little thing that they've added as well is they've actually added subsurface scattering to the leaves. If you guys don't know what subsurface scattering is, Lumion's waxiness slider in materials is actually doing the same effect. Subsurface scattering is like when you stick your flashlight behind your finger and you can see it turn pink and glow on the edges. It's because light actually penetrates deep and then glows. You'll see it in fruit and in skin and in leaves. Leaves, when you put up to the sun, the edges will kind of glow. And I'm not sure how well you're really seeing it in real time right here. You're starting to see it glow a little bit, but I've tested it out and have been really impressed. Really impressed with the result. Looks like I have a layer not on. There we go. All right. So you're starting to see it there. Super minor, but it really adds another level of realism. And just look at that cluster of leaves in there. I'm just looking at one tree, but all of the leaves have it. It's that one thing to take Lumion to another level. I really love this grass right here. This one has been really awesome in some of the renders I've tested. It really gets it nice and soft. There's a lot of focus right here, but it renders those little blades of grass nice and soft, just like they would be in real life. I've put them right next to the camera, framing a shot, and they just it wows me. They're really good quality. But what we want to talk about is how heavy they are. Lumion tries to emphasize this really heavily right here. Do not add too many of them. They will slow down your scene. How much? I'm not really sure. It depends on your system, depends on your scene, but just be cautious. These should only sit right in front of a camera. They shouldn't go in the background. You shouldn't mass place them. Look at the options. You don't even have, mass placement, cluster placement, or the paint placement that we have now. In fact, you can't even grab it, hold Alt, and copy it. They don't want to make it easy to just to ruin your scene by making it slow. So I can't emphasize enough, just like the 3D grass, use sparingly. Use it as a highlight. Don't replace all your trees with it, even though you'll be tempted to. Another little UI feature that I forgot to mention before is that we have an awesome new breakout of all of our details of our scene here. And one of the ones is fine detail nature, really trying to emphasize, don't put too many here. Again, I don't have a number to tell you. I can tell you that this grass is a lot less heavy than these trees. I can't say don't use more than 20. It's all going to depend on you. But an incredible new ad. Just start playing with it. Add real skies, skylight, stick it near the sun. You will see magic happen. They're awesome. An awesome new ad. Some came from Evermotion, some looks like they were custom made. So yeah, there's a fine detail nature. Okay, so on the subject of trees, we're gonna talk about an awesome new way of placing trees, especially in areas of nature or out in the distance. Maybe not so much right next to your project, maybe, but I've always wanted to be able to paint trees here. So let's go back to regular nature, go to place mode. Now we have our typical single placement, mass placement, cluster placement, and now we have this paint placement option. So this is how it works. Really basically, we got density. That's going to be obviously how dense we're going to be placing these trees. We can only paint one tree at a time. So let's pretend we're in a forest. We'll start doing these type of trees, and you just start painting them. So obviously my density is pretty insane right now, so I can turn that down. Go even less. And we're just painting trees. Now, what's interesting too is there's an erase option, and its density is low. Well, it doesn't grab all of them, so you can kind of just brush around and clean up some of that density there if you've added too many. Makes it really intuitive, and obviously if you want to add a different type of tree, we just go into here and start painting it again. This is something I wish Lumion held for a long time, and I've made so many different forests. There's so many different scenes where I mean, mass placement was good. I'm glad they added that, but I needed more. I need to be able to interactively just paint the scenery like this. So they've kept it really simple. I kind of hope they build on it a little bit more. Maybe able to do clusters of trees, maybe did multiple versions at once. Oh, so you see that? I'm on this tree and I'm only erasing those trees right now. So that's pretty cool. So if I went back to these trees, yeah, so they still categorize it by each instance. So great new addition, pretty straightforward. Try it out. I think it'd be great for adding little grasses and everything too. So maybe you could use it right next to your building. You just can't seem to change that brush size. That's why I kind of thought it's more meant for the nature further away from your project in the background. So that is the paint tree option, or it's paint placement. Great new addition. Okay, so moving on to materials, we have some exciting new additions to Lumion 10. We have displacement mapping. Definitely a big win for Lumion. This is something I've wanted for a while, to really get and sell that depth of our materials, especially things like rock and ground terrain, which you can add as much of normal maps as you want to it. In the end, it's flat and you can't sell it. And I'm really glad to say that Lumion 10 has added some excellent displacement maps to their library. Now, these are not able to be added custom yet. Right now, it is only added to their existing library. There's some new materials they've added that have a D to it, a D next to it here, which means it has displacement mapping. But they've also added it to some older materials that they've had before. So keep an eye out for a lot of the polygon materials, and the new Evermotion materials will have it, but there's some older ones from even Lumion. They've added this displacement option as well. So let's take a look at a kind of real stark example to really showcase how this works. So now below the relief slider here, we have a displacement slider. So before we had relief, which is that normal map, which helps, you know, trick the light into thinking that things are rough and estimates those shadows. And displacement works in kind of in a similar way of perceiving depth here. This type of displacement mapping is not actually deforming the geometry, which in a way is a good thing, because it actually keeps things running nice and fast and speedy. If it were to displace it through actually deforming the ground, it actually would hurt performance more. So just, you know, don't expect to be able to get your camera still super close. But man, it's pretty convincing until the last few inches here. So there's that displacement slider. We could try another material here as an example. Definitely a stark difference here. Really helps sells a lot of those kind of materials. I could replace this grass with some rock here. It really looks great. It's much better than what it was before. Rock, you know, ground cover like this was always something that didn't really sell well, even with the strongest relief map. It just gets dark and weird. And now with that, it really starts to sell a lot better. So a great win for Lumion, including this into a lot of their library. There's also some new materials. I'm not going to cover all of them, but they've added some more from Polygon and from Evermotion. And the big add as well is look for the ones with the D for displacement. Really really some impressive results. Excited to play with that some more. Okay, so continue along with materials. A new improvement that Lumion 10 has added to the materials is a better way of managing their custom library. We had custom materials from before, but you couldn't give them a custom name, and often the little thumbnail didn't help differentiate them enough to know which one was which. So now we have this new tab here. If we decide to add this material just as the way we like it right here, we can now save material to custom materials and even give it a name. You know, Rock 4. Really creative, but we got a preview there. And if we go back to the custom materials, you can see I've created some from before, and it has the name. So I've called some of these things, you know, turn signal, barn siding, stone cap, shiplap. It's definitely made a big difference. It's something we've wanted before, and Lumion has added it. As of this moment, I don't think there's too many other anything else to really say about that, but it's an excellent new addition. I'm going to utilize the heck out of it in my custom material library, because now I can differentiate them, and they're not just thumbnails that I can barely tell the difference between them like I did before without title. Okay, so we got another release of Lumion, which means we get a ton more content to add to our ever-growing library. Lumion now has well over 5,000 objects in the library, 5,700 or so. We got 62 new fine detail nature that we covered before, 11 new vehicles, 180 new interior objects. There's a lot of seating, kitchen, and tables, 30 more animated people, and 81 exterior objects. So yeah, we have more objects to cover. I'm not going to cover all of them right here, but I'll show you where you can find some of them and some samples here. So I don't believe we have any new trees in here, but if we go into people, good news here, this is kind of important. They've added a new tagging system here. So before I would share the favorites one that I've set aside for all the new people. Now if you go to the search, you can search for new, and all of these are brand new. Look at that dog. All of these are brand new content we just got. So much nicer than just searching through and arguing to yourself whether it's someone else is new or if they've been there for all along. So new variety of different people as expected. More cyclists, a lot more cyclists, which is great. So there's some of the new people there. They look super high quality as they have before. If we jump into indoor, search new, and we get lots of we got some more Evermotion pillows. You also see this little this little symbol here. That means that the object can be colorized. So when you select it, you can decide whatever color you want it to be. This is a nice little feature they added too. A lot of kitchen furniture here. A lot of chairs and seating. Great quality objects from Evermotion. Always a win getting from Evermotion. New vehicles. Some pretty cool new vehicles. We have like a Tesla looking vehicle here. Which one is it? It's right here. That's pretty cool. Some, always, of course, a Ferrari, because that's what we see all the time. And a new truck. I mean, we only had one before, and in America, there's plenty of trucks, and I've already used that one many times. So now we have two. Always adding more great vehicles. And for outdoor, selecting new, or searching the tag new. Look at that. Tons more buildings. This is actually really great. Be able to just populate, buildings in the distance. And some more furniture content down here. So that is that's how you can find all of the new content that came with Lumion 10. dare you to try to find them without hitting that new. There's just so many now. Again, a lot from Evermotion. Great quality, optimized objects, and you get some more AXYZ and custom people into Lumion. They match the quality standards we come to expect from before. So definitely plenty to play around with there. Okay, another little minor feature that was added in Lumion 10 is now this new terrain cutter, which is found in this new little utilities tab here, along with clip plane, grid, reflection control. It's called cut. It's right here. Now what this is meant to do is meant to help users who didn't fully understand why they would place their model and grass would start growing up into their house or in their pool. And it was really frustrating. There's ways around it that advanced users can easily work around, but it's been really frustrating for new users. Lumion has listened to that and has added this utility that will just basically cut the terrain and move it away. So this is meant mainly in this case right here. Let's see. Let's delete this really quick. What if we decide to grow that grass insane? Maybe fire the lawnmower guy, and look at that. We got grass inside the house. I'm sure you guys have seen this before. It's frustrating, but Lumion has made this. It's entirely preventable, but Lumion has made this even easier. So now we have that terrain cutter. We'll just kind of set it down in here. And as you can see, it's taking care of all the things under there. Obviously, don't expose it to areas where you're going to see holes in the terrain. So don't pull it out here. That's going to look really weird, having a hole. But I imagine, let's see, you can add multiple of them. So that way you can address these shapes accurately. However many you need to do. At a certain point, it might be easier just to clean it up in your model. But Lumion has provided some excellent tools to help those who have been frustrated with this. So I am glad for that. And we'll play with some more scenarios in the in-depth tutorial. So that is the terrain cutter, or landscape cutter as it says. Okay, so last but not least, we're going to take a look at the new OpenStreetMap features. Now OpenStreetMap is better than ever because we can add height maps. We can add terrain information from pretty much anywhere in the world, along with all the massing buildings and roads and all the other little details that we've gotten from OpenStreetMap. And what I'm going to do here really quickly in our scene here is I'm going to put it in the hills somewhere in LA, just to kind of get a cool idea of how we can utilize this and maybe have some city buildings in the distance to create some more intriguing shots. So we're going to jump in to landscape, OpenStreetMap, turn it on. It's still in beta, so we just hit this check mark here. Works just like it did before. We're going to find our location, and I just happened to be playing around here before and it remembered it. So we're going to go, I'm just going to keep it away from being right in the middle of a lot of these projects. I'm going to put in the middle of a park here, but hopefully we should see some buildings, and all these populated areas should have a really cool look here. So right here is where we have to toggle height maps on. So once we do that, we'll see a big square here, and that's all the height map information, as opposed to this circle here. That is going to be the near map information and the roads and buildings. So it's already pumped in the height maps, and we're going to hit download. So give it a moment. It's generating everything we need. And yes, it's kind of messed up our scene, but we'll see how we can recover that. But what we're looking at here is a ton of information. We just got populated in some of the Los Angeles hills here, and yeah, some really cool detail in the homes in these canyons here. So essentially, once I polish this up, we can have some really cool shots looking out in the distance. I think the ocean is technically right around here too, so I could like turn on the ocean somewhere out here or so. There we go. So what's awesome about this is we also have the ability to manipulate this terrain that's come in. If you guys have seen my height map into Lumion tutorial I made a couple years ago, this essentially is following the same way, but except it has the scale perfectly calibrated with everything. The advantage of this over just bringing in terrain from InfraWorks, SketchUp, like some of the tutorials I covered before, is you can actually manipulate this terrain right inside because it's Lumion terrain. So I'm just going to go ahead and flatten this area here just so we can plant our building in our little block right here smoothly. Let me feather that off a little bit. Okay. And so what I'm going to do as well is we still have a building right in the middle here. So I'm going to toggle these two buildings, turn them off. And let's see. Everything come in pretty decently. What I would recommend doing here, since OpenStreetMap kind of dumped everything right in the middle of this canyon, is I would take all of these objects again. Now I'm going to grab a lot of them, and I'm going to try place on landscape again and see if that fixes everything. So when we go to our shots, technically our shots should remain the same because the height level here is based off the ground below you, but there's just a little bit of massaging we'll need to do. This is a really extreme example, but let's clean it up really quick. Okay, oops. I thought I was in move up and down. So there's that terrain set up here. It looks just about right. I could smooth back there a little bit. But we have our shots. Now we could edit that to look like this. So we have some of that context in the distance there. Just like this shot too. That's pretty cool. It really, after everything that's been put in there, that actually didn't mess things up too badly. So that's OpenStreetMap now. Awesome. Being able to get height maps in there in terrain is something I wanted it to do for a long time now. There's an awesome shot there looking out into the ocean. Okay, so that covers that. That is the last one of our tutorials on each of these features in Lumion 10. And very exciting. There's a couple little minor details, like a better DWG importer. Quick save has been discontinued because it wasn't doing what it needed to do, so just make sure you save right here like normal. And that about covers it for all new features in Lumion 10. Thanks for watching all of these new features and this tour. Hopefully I was able to do what I can to help you better understand how these features work, how they look, how Lumion's implemented them, and helped you decide whether or not Lumion 10 is the right, is worth the update for you guys. I think it's incredible. The new trees are quite amazing. The real-time preview is game-changing. That's a lot of time saved in hours, not having to do preview renders. I'm really glad Lumion has come forward and fixed Lumion to become a true real-time renderer again. Some of the other features like OpenStreetMap really surprised me. I'm going to be utilizing that for sure a lot. And I think one of my favorite new features is indeed the real-time preview, and as well as the night skies. That's definitely something, just a little thing that we were missing that we have now. So remember, I'm going to be covering all of these tutorials, all of these new features and tutorials again shortly after. and we'll get to go more in depth and hopefully answer any more of your questions. Feel free to leave any other questions in the comments and I'll try to address it. And please subscribe for more content like this. We're going to be covering a lot more Lumion 10 tutorials besides the new features. I have a lot of tutorials in store, so thanks for watching and until next time.